It's frosty here, which is normal, right, Raph?
Yes, it's Flin Flon. It's the Great Wide North, and we've had ourselves an excellent November. Usually we get a white Christmas around Halloween, but we were able to avoid that this year.
Same thing in Winnipeg, which I know you spent some time in Winnipeg too, so you know it well.
Yeah, did some growing up in Winnipeg. A little Go U of M, Go Bisons, St. Paul's High School, Go Crusaders.
Love that. Lots of shout-outs this morning. In the weather forecast for today for the rest of the day, so we're both starting out frosty. Flin Flon the rest of the day, winds 20 to 40, a high of -2. In Winnipeg, a few showers actually expected this afternoon. A cloudy day, a high of 4 degrees. And then that rain turns to flurries tonight. We all knew it had to happen sometime. And in Winnipeg, currently -1. Over in Brandon right now, it is cloudy. It's -1. And up in Thompson, if you're going even further north, it's snowing right now. And it is -9. Or if you're going to Thompson, rather. Okay, let's get to what's happening on the streets of Winnipeg. Sorry, Flin Flon listeners, but we got to go back there for a bit of traffic with Abby Adiyemi.
Yeah, if you're heading out this morning, traffic's still moving smoothly for now, but the regular rush hour traffic will be building later. Just a heads up of some issues to look out for later. Arlington Street between Portage and St. Paul, all northbound lanes will be closed for zero work. And around the Dougal end, at Dawson to Panet, we're going to see curb lanes in both directions closed for zero work as well. But local traffic will open for rush hour. You see anything in traffic? Let us know. 788-3093.
All right, it's 6:14 a.m. Let's get into a little bit of a chat here to begin our Flin Flon show. So why are we here? Well, CBC Manitoba does Communities in Focus as an initiative, and we go, well, all over Manitoba to visit different communities, and we simply ask, what do you want us to know while we're here? So we have a lot coming up on the show. And as I mentioned, broadcasting on 89.3 and then 90.9 FM, that's CBC up here, and we've taken over your airwaves at 102.9 at CFAR. Now, if you know anything about radio, and this is the truth, it is built on community. And having been in this business for more than 20 years, that is absolutely the truth. In times of crisis, you call the radio station. Often the local news is covered by your local radio station if you're lucky to have one. So who better to help us start the show than, as you heard, the Hungarian heartthrob, the host of the Bed, Breakfast, and Beyond morning show, Raphael, Saray, baby.
Hey, greetings, salutations. Great to have you here in our lovely community, Marcy.
Did I do that right? The baby?
That was good. That was done with vim, vigor, and enthusiasm, as we like to say.
Is it true that a 4-year-old actually got in your face and said that and you were so excited?
They pointed at me and went, Raphael, Saray, baby. I went, well, that's the whole reason why we do it here.
Tell me a little bit about why you stayed here. I mentioned 5 weeks filling in, and then you just have lived in Flin Flon for 17 years.
Yeah, I've been here for a little bit. They gave me the morning show, and it is a great community. It's a really neat place. I call it the big sandbox. It's a big playpen. I'm involved in the arts and theater scene going on here, and it is amazing the talent and investment that people put into it. So it just kind of stayed. Met my missus here, proposed on the air, so it all worked out.
In terms of your station, you're part of the Arctic Radio Group. It goes back to the 30s. It's a music station primarily, but you do also have features that bring the community vibes in. Tell me what some of the features are that keep you connected.
Yeah, we have feature chats. We'll interview community members. We'll interview the head of the Rotary Club. We'll talk to the mayor. We'll talk to City Council. Of course, we cover the Flin Flon Bombers. For those listening, Flin Flon Bombers 2-1 last night in Melfort. I do the best person in the world, which is a shout out of a community member who has done something big or small and positive. We have things like the Traders Post, where people come in and they ask, like, I got 3 bald tires and a trip to Saskatoon, willing to take offers to it. And it's so the radio station is kind of a hub, kind of a campfire for the whole town.
I love that image, a campfire for the town. I also I love Traders Post things. A lot of small radio stations. I worked in Steinbach for some time, and I just love people calling in and trading.
That's how I got my dryer.
Who is the best person in the world? Give me an example of someone you would have
best person in the world. We had our dear bus driver, John. So a radio shtick that we did with our insurance salesman was getting me to actually get a license and drive a car. So before that, there was a big snowstorm, and the garage to the bus wasn't feasibly able to be open because they got to shovel it out. So bus driver came in his Jeep and went, I'll take you, and went to the stops for the 6 o'clock run, me and a couple of other people, and drove us in his own vehicle as they were getting out the bus. So it's just small things like this that are actually big, neat things.
Yeah, for sure, especially in a city. So you guys have about 5,000 people here. And I want to ask you on the serious note, what happened to you guys at the station when the wildfires broke out? Like, what was the moment that you had to get off air?
That was something. So the mayor of the communities, because we're Flin Flon, Creighton, and Air Beach, we border the Saskatchewan side, they all called the radio station and went, interrupt the music, breaking news, everybody's got a bug out. So we kind of didn't know logistically what that meant at the radio station. So we stayed to try and give news until we got the call or got a knock on the door from the RCMP who were going door to door, booting people out. We went, can we do the news? They went, no. They took us all out. We locked the radio station. They put a yellow ribbon on the door handle, and we were off.
What was it like being having to hear the news from your city that you know so well when everyone was so dispersed for like a month?
It was challenging because, we went to Winnipeg to my sister's basement, me and my family, and we were trying to get in touch with our radio family because we had to sort of jerry-rig things because we have affiliates in Thompson and the Pas as well, and just trying to figure out when we're coming back, if we're coming back, and then coordinating things with local government. You had to talk to the Saskatchewan government, the province, the city, so it was a stressful time for sure.
Yeah, people have to remember that Flin Flon is right on the border. So I think down south people often forget. You guys are literally like you can throw a baseball and hit Saskatchewan.
Yeah, a lot of rider flags around here, yeah.
So someone told me that that's one of the jokes, that you can hit a home run and it lands in another province.
Yeah, you can hit a foul baseball. You can hit a foul ball playing slow pitch and it would be on the Saskatchewan side, yeah.
Northern towns that lose mines, like Flin Flon did in 2022. Of course, you still have Snow Lake a couple hours away, but they often do end up shuttered and sparse. That is not the case here. The mayor will talk a little more about that. But what do you think when you think about the people, about why, why that hasn't happened, and what's key to sort of Flin Flon thriving in the future?
Well, the mine was definitely a magnet to bring skilled tradespersons, and then families all come here. But when you do come here, you sort of find your own fun. You find your group, whether it's in a thriving art scene, a lot of outdoors. We've got Great Lakes 10, 15 minutes away. Cabin country is pretty much everywhere. So once you get here and something closes, you've got these skills, you've got this family. So you either start your own business, you hook up with some friends, and you just kind of figure it out because you don't want to leave here. Okay,
you're going to be with us all morning. Obviously, we're together all morning here on both CFAR and CBC. But let's just get a few things clear. We're downtown, but you guys don't call it downtown. You call it uptown.
Yes.
Why?
Because you go up the hill to get here.
I could have figured that out.
Yeah, pay attention, Marcy. I'll throw them out there. You take the ones you want.
I might catch them. They might go foul in the other province. I don't know. Flin Floners, is that what you call yourself?
Flin Flonians for some.
Okay.
I like Flin Floners. Flin Flonians is a little more bougie, a little more shishi.
Okay, I'm writing Flin Flonians down so I sound bougie. I like bougie. Flintabby
Flomison.
How long did it take you to master that?
It's one of those things where you read a lot and you don't really say it. Some old school fans of National Film Board things may know it. But we have Flintabby Flodden, the big statue right in the start of town who gives you a thumbs up as soon as you come in.
Raphael, thank you for being with us through the morning. Thanks for letting me take over the morning airwaves with you here, too.
Yeah, it's our pleasure.
And thanks for having CBC and Flin Flon. We've had such a good time here so far.
Yeah, thanks for coming and showcasing what we do here.
Next on the show, we are going to someone who is well known around these parts, and you might even know him down south as well. If you're a regular CFAR listener, we have another familiar voice that's about to join us. In our studio, community studio here at the Orange Toad, uptown, Ronny Burwash is with us. Came in early, put his guitar in his lap. He said he's never sang this early, but he's going to do it for us here. He's a local musician. He's been known to sing on air now and then. He was in the Homegrown Music Series that they have here on CFAR, if you listen here. And he has a song all about Flin Flon. But first, we just want to chat with him a bit. Hey, Ronny.
Hi, good morning, Marcy.
You've lived here. What do you love about living in Flin Flon? How long you lived here?
Well, I was born here, but I didn't always live here. I worked here for a while, and then I left, and I ended up all over in Yellowknife. I had sisters there, so and then I ended up in Winnipeg, and ended up meeting my wife there, which I knew ever since we were kids, but still, how it goes,
Yeah.
And so anyway, then we came back to Flin Flon in 1973. And I started working at the company again, and
Been here ever
Been here ever
since.
since.
What's the music scene like here in Flin Flon? Raph was just talking about the art scene, the music scene, and it's hard not to notice how thriving everything is. What's it like for you as a musician?
Well, you know what? Most people they treat me pretty good. I get to go on some kinds of different venues. Of course, I'm more or less a country guy, although I like all kinds of music. But,
Yeah.
But there's so many talented musicians around this town. It's
Cory,
unreal.
I'm going to get you to move that cord from around his neck because every time it's cracking. This is live radio, folks, so we're just going to fix that before Ronnie sings because every time he's moving, it's just kind of making that noise. I'm going to clean that up right before. It's like a live sound check here on CBC CFAR because he's about to be singing for us. Or maybe, Cory, you can hold it still.
I can move a little closer there, maybe too.
Yeah,
How's that?
I think
gives it a
that's
little
good. I think
slack.
that's going to work better for us, Ronnie. You comfortable there?
Oh yeah, I'll manage.
What are you going to sing?
I want to sing the Flin Flon song. This song was written by Irvin Fries. I'm not sure what year, but in the 40s, I guess maybe during the war as well, the farmers would come up here in the wintertime and work. And then they would go back to the farm for the summer. And he came up here and did that and went back to Birch River, wrote this song. And I met Irvin. He's passed on now, but he was a good friend with my brother and my sister-in-law who lived in Birch River for a while, and I got to meet Irvin a few times over the years.
I love that you're carrying on his work and his lyrics.
Well, it's just because it's the Flin Flon song. We're in Flin
course.
Flon, you know. I don't know of anybody else that does it except me.
Well, let's do it, and then we'll figure out who you got to pass it along to, Ronnie, so that music never dies. This is live on CFAR 102.9 FM and 90.9 FM CBC here up in Flin Flon. This is Ronny Burwash and the Flin Flon song.
Okay, it goes like this. It's a story that tells about underground. If you worked underground, you'll understand this song better than somebody that doesn't. But most people, you know.
Okay, get your head in the space of a minor. We got
That's
you.
right. It was in October on a bright autumn day. 4 men left Birch River for far, far away. They were headed to Flin Flon to work in the mine, where the rain never falls and the sun never shines. Was a rough ride to Flin Flon, pulled in around noon. We'd yet never heard of the old Gracie Spoon. We were tired and hungry, thirsty as the dickens, so we all made a beeline for the Richmond Hotel. We picked out our table, ordered around, talked over jobs we would get underground. Well, just how long we sat there, well, I'll never know. But what did we care? We had no place to go. Well, we finally got up, walked the streets up and down, to let people know there were farmers in town. Was then we decided to follow the mob and go to the office and ask for a job. They hired us all as muckers first rate, told us to be there next morning at 8. We got our big boots and a hat that was hard, went back to the gate, yelled good night to the guard. To work the first morning in a dock, oh, they claim we saw many things, there's even electric muck crane. For the first couple hours, just standing around and learning the signals of the cage up and down. I suppose we're quite stupid of the work that's down there. You'd thought so if you heard the old miner swear. There were big lights and small ones a-passing me by, the rumble of a liner to the diamond drill cry. Then the shift boss, he took us way back to the switch. Each got a shovel and showed us the ditch. In muck to our knees it is, there we will stay. Some guy couldn't take it and quit the first day. I'm telling you, boys, life's too short for that. Never cut out for an underground ride. I'll work here till April and then I'll be gone. Back south to Birch River, that's where I belong. My battered up lunch pail I'll hang on the wall. You never know, maybe back here next fall. In case I don't make it, I'd like to confess. You can give my regards to HBM and S.
All right, let's hear it in here. Everybody in the Orange Toad early this morning on our simulcast with CFAR and CBC. Ronny Burwash live with the Flin Flon song. Ronny, thank you. You sounded great early this morning. What a story that was in the song.
Thank you very much.
As we like to do on our community broadcasts, we always just invite people on the airwaves. We're in your city. We're here to hear from you. So let's hear from someone who popped in. This is Nicolas Somars. He's 41. He is all about Flin Flon. Born and raised here, Nick?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah?
Born and raised. Lived here all my life.
What do you do for a living? I know you commute, I think, right?
Yeah, I work up in Snow Lake for Hud Bay there.
Okay,
And-
so people down south might not realize, like there's a lot of people that do the same thing you do. So what is your life like going back and forth to the mine? What does that mean?
Week in, week out. So you do your week up in Snow Lake, and then you come down and live your life here.
Yeah, so it's a little bit split. You also, if people are watching on YouTube, they can see that you're wearing a fantastic top hat, which is adorned with a peacock feather and some, it looks like, is it teeth or claws? What's around there?
Teeth, yeah.
Yeah, tell me about your hat.
Oh, well, I have a hat collection at home, hats from a lot of different decades. So I thought, this is rare event here in town. So I thought I'd dress up for coming down here. So
You're lucky we had the mic from when Ronny was singing because we couldn't get the headphones over that top hat. Because just if people who aren't watching on YouTube, this thing is probably a couple. It's like it's over a foot tall up there.
oh yeah, it's a stovepipe top hat.
Yeah, how'd you get into that? Not the hat.
Oh,
Into
okay.
collecting.
Oh, no, it just an interest.
Yeah.
I thought something different than ball caps. You see them everywhere. So
Yeah, it's very cool. It suits
Thank
you.
you.
What do you do over at the mine?
work over in the mill there at the crusher, loading the crusher there with the loader.
Yeah. And what do you like about living in Flin Flon? Why have you made this your home for your life?
Good people. I got family here. Good little town to grow up in and live in.
How worried were you when the mine pulled out of here in Flin Flon 3 years ago? Like, I'm just wondering what that moment was like, because everybody in Manitoba might, know other towns that have sort of a big industry, and then you lose that, and then what's next? Was there a lot of stress, or is this? Did you have a moment where you were worried about it?
For me, yeah, because I bought a house recently here in town, and I didn't really know what was going to happen, if I would have a job still, or what the future was going to bring. So there was concern there.
Yeah. Were you one of the workers then that would have been working there, and now you're working at Snow Lake because they moved your position there?
Yeah, I luckily had enough seniority to be transferred over to Snow Lake when they shut the operations down here.
What do you do in the weekend? What is it? What do Northerners do in the weekend? I know you don't speak for everyone. But.
Well, I do wood burning pictures, so I work on those, and then I do work for my club there. We're all over the world, so.
What's your club?
Slow Rider Scooter Club.
Okay. How far do you ride your scooter?
Every year I try to make it down to the Ride for Dad in Winnipeg.
Yeah. Very cool. The personal reason for that?
No, just a good cause, good people. Hello, Ed, if you're listening.
Love that. Thanks for stopping in and saying hi on CBC and CFAR.
Well, thank you for having me.
Meeting Flin Floners this morning. Or what did Raph tell me to say? Not Flin Floners. Flin Flonians. It's bougier. He said. So that's what I'm going to say. Meeting Flin Flonians this morning here. We're live at the Orange Toad. I'm Marcy Markusa. You're listening to CBC. Well, up next on the show, you've already heard this mentioned, and that is because if you're in Flin Flon and you talk about the Bombers, you're not talking about the Blue Bombers. You are talking about the Flin Flon Bombers, who won last night 2-1 in Melfort, I think, on the road, which is very good. And so next on the show, we're actually going to take you to a game. we this morning are going to hear a little bit more about what the team means to the community. We first, though, want to take you to where CBC's Cory Funk was. He caught the Flin Flon Bombers game here in the city on Tuesday night over at the Whitney Forum. He wanted to hear what Flin Floners not only like about the team, but also what they love about this place, this city of 5,000, this place of perseverance that this summer people were out of for a full month. And I think what we're hearing on the streets here since we've been here this week is when people return, there's almost some people are expressing a new appreciation for their community here in northern Manitoba. So Cory talked to people about what they love about Flin Flon, but also about what they'd like to see change. He met Christina Lees.
I understand your son literally just scored right now.
He sure did.
He plays for the Flin Flon Bombers.
He does, yeah. And he's from here.
Okay,
yeah.
That's great. How long has your son been playing for the Flin Flon Bombers for?
This is his 4th year.
Okay,
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
What's his name? Give him a shout out.
His name is Joey.
Okay. What does this team kind of mean to the city, I guess?
Everything. I mean, we're a hockey town, but it really just brings everybody together. It's something to do on any night, especially in the winter and everything. And it's a long tradition in the community, so it means everything, yeah.
What do you love about living in Flin Flon?
I was born and raised here, so I love everything about it. My husband's from here too, and my mother-in-law is, we're running a business here. It's a hunting and fishing lodge, just 5 minutes out of town. So we love everything. We love the wilderness and the fishing and the lakes and swimming and the beaches and all the tourism. We love the small town things. We love the orange toad. We love that we grew up here and we went to school here. We did a picture a few years ago with our 4 kids that they all graduated here from, even through COVID and the boys being out of town and everything. We're all from here and we all graduated from the same high school as our parents and everything, so it just really means a lot to us. Yeah.
Flin Flon's in your blood, huh?
It is in our blood, and it gets in your blood, yeah. People that move here, it gets to them. That the saying is once a bomber, always a bomber, but when you're from Flin Flon, you're always from Flin Flon. Your family becomes from Flin Flon, no matter where you go. Once a Flin Floner, always a Flin Floner. Yeah.
Just even curious, what some of the challenges of living in a city like Flin Flon? Then mines closes or things like that. What's some of the things maybe you wish your city had?
Well, my husband worked at the mine, and now he travels to Snow Lake, so that is tough. It's tough on a lot of families, I think, especially with people with younger families. But I would say medical would be our biggest thing. We don't have. I can't imagine all of my babies were born here in Flin Flon. I can't imagine having to drive somewhere to go and have my baby. That's something we're missing in our community.
There's no place for women to give birth here?
No, not here in our community. And I'm not good on years. I'm going to say 5 years maybe. I think just before COVID, or for sure since COVID.
How far do you have to go now to give birth in Flin Flon?
We have to go to the paw. So that's an hour and a half in an ambulance, or people, they move to the city for the month. They do all sorts of things like that. Like they don't want to give birth in the paw, or if they have issues with pregnancies, because we have very few doctors here. Finding a family doctor is really hard because there's just not enough, or there's a rotation of doctors and stuff. And yeah, other than medical stuff, the community provides everything you need, I think. We always say the city limits or the provincial limits are Winnipeg, and the province of Winnipeg. No, we are the province of Manitoba, and there's a lot of us out here that have a lot less than the people in the city because that's where the funding will go,
Anything else you want to add?
No, go Bombers.
Go.
Cory Funk talked to Christina Lees, Flin Flonian, out at the Bombers game, Flin Flon Bombers on Tuesday night. Big crowds out there. I just got to turn to Raph for 5 seconds before we talk to the mayor. How many people can the Whitney Forum hold?
Legally, it can hold about 1,800 seats, then maybe 2,500 standings, and for playoffs, we'll send the fire chief to a conference and try and put 3,000 people in there.
And they'll all come, right?
There for the finals, we had half the town in there for the SJHL finals.
I love that. 11 minutes to 7 o'clock. We're broadcasting live on CBC and CFAR. Raphael, Saray, the morning host at CFAR. I'm Marcy Markusa. We're at Communities in Focus. So we're live at the Orange Toad, which is uptown here in Flin Flon. The mayor, as I mentioned, of Flin Flon, George Fontaine, is live with us as well. He's been listening in. Good morning.
Good morning.
So it's interesting because when I was hearing about that challenge, Cory was talking about, at the Bomber game about hockey, but also about the healthcare things. It's interesting because it reminds us that you have a whole bunch of things in Flin Flon, but you might not have every service that is needed here. What could the province or the feds be doing better to support Flin Flon in your view?
Change their attitude generally, quite frankly, because we've been a very, very viable part of this community and putting a lot of our income over the last 90 years, 100 years into provincial coffers. And now things have slowed down a bit, not stopped. They're going to turn around. But I think we should be taken more seriously that way. But health-wise, they've mentioned the babies, but then I've been through a couple of medical things here, specifically and personally, when my wife had a stroke 2 years ago. So we had to spend 5 months in Winnipeg in order to get services that were appropriate for her condition. And then we came back here. We had services for a while, but they have not been able to maintain them. So for somebody in her condition, that's just another example of someone who could be using more help here and should be getting more help here.
And when you say had services here for a while post-stroke, what kind of services? Like, are you talking physio and such, or what kinds
That's
of
right.
things?
Occupational therapy, physio. They're just they don't have the manpower nor the training to do it. Occupational therapy had the training, but just ran out of manpower, and so weren't able to continue with us. And it makes a big difference on somebody who's trying to recuperate to have that kind of an encouragement from a professional.
And it'd be at home.
And while you're at home, you're trying to do it on your own. You're trying to keep your own spirit up without...
You want to be in your city. You want to be in with your people.
You want to be here. As I said, we were able to access services. It's interesting you mentioned that. If we were in Winnipeg proper, and it had to be in the borders of Winnipeg to be able to get at-home service for I think it was 6 weeks that we were there staying in a friend's apartment so that she could get herself more mobile and have physio and occupational therapy delivered to the home. If you live there, you have it. If you leave the perimeter, you lose it.
When the main mine shut down here in 2022, what was the population impact? Because this is super interesting.
Well, I think it was a 10% drop is what we ended up with in the end through the schools. I'll use that number to say it made a difference to us in a bunch of different ways, but we were thinking that it might be catastrophic. And it turned out...
you only have to look at Leaf Rapids or Lynn Lake there's so many communities in Manitoba where it has been.
So here it's been more of a blip, and we're working with it. We're very, very careful, like as a council, watching our spending. There's things we'd like to be doing, but, we don't have the income that we used to have. But people have been very patient with us, and we know that we're working. I think I mentioned to you before, rather than putting too much into roads and highways and that sort of thing. We've looked at quality of life in the community and tried to maintain.
I was just going to say, you said you're watching spending, but you're building an $18 million aquatic center.
Yeah, but those things.
So tell me why that's worth it.
It's worth it because we have a population here that's here for a lot of reasons. You said, why did Flin Flon survive? Why is it here? And I think I told you that my answer was attitude. And the people here live a lifestyle they're very, very proud of. They take care of each other. It's a very, very caring community. But in terms of sports, we have things like the Bombers, and everybody roots behind the same team. But we have all kinds of things like a ski club, that kind of thing, and snowmobile clubs. Everybody backs them. If it comes, though, to arts and that sort of a thing, so much in all kinds of arts participation here, whether it be, as you see, the paintings in this room, that sort of thing. All kinds of artists behind every corner around here. So those people are doing their things. But the community is a strong community. Everybody sticks together, works together, even in emergencies. And so they're not likely to just let go and say we're leaving.
It's interesting because you have about 5,000 people, and you actually say that number is important. Why?
Well, I told you it was important to us because one of the things that happened not too long before I got back in, was that our population dropped below 5,000, which meant that we didn't have to pay our RCMP costs. When I was a mayor, that was 10 years ago, we were paying $1.5 million, that sort of thing, for RCMP services. when the population dropped, it happened simultaneous with the company kind of shutting down. So it wasn't really noticed by the people, and it wasn't advertised. But we then did not have to pay that $1.5 million. That's a great bonus because we lost $2.5 million in income from the company that had what's called a grant in lieu. That's like
got it. So as soon as you go over 5,000, you're going to have that cost back in the books.
No, but more now because of all the costs and pensions and cameras and everything else. It's probably $2.5 million that we'll have to pick up, and we'll have to pick it up on a moment's notice. So, yeah, I'm going to be very careful, trying not to cross that line.
Tell me a little bit about the hope for the future of Flin Flon. I know that you talk about the arts and the tourism community, but you need an economic engine still, and you have big hopes in this mine that is in Saskatchewan. Remember, we're in a border town here, border city, like Saskatchewan's right there. Tell me about your hope for that. It's the one that the Prime Minister Mark Carney put on his list of big projects. So how close is it, and what could it mean to your city?
It's within an hour of here, and it's been taking some of the employees that were once working for Hudbay and from other places as well, and employing them out there, and is setting up to have a good, I forget exactly the numbers, 450 people I heard roughly around there are going to be working full time. We can't force anybody, but we would certainly love to encourage people to be living locally, which is why the whole lifestyle, the kinds of things are so important to have everything. We have one of the most terrific education systems here, so we want to be able to provide for those people. With them, though, they're going to be opening starting to function by next summer, as well as something called Strong Pine, which is a sand moving operation. It's going to be sending sand right across from that same area where the mine is, right across Western Canada.
Is it enough for Flin Flon to not have something be based right here? Or is your hope still, like, what projects right here do you have that you hope will drive the economic engine in your city?
One is the potential mining of the tailings. So you've got 90 years worth of tailings.
That's the leftovers, for lack of a better word, yes. Right? They're sitting there.
The dross.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
So whatever's left over from the mines, they say there's a lot of minerals in there and it's mineable. The company has been in contact with I think a company called Cobalt Blue out of Australia, and they've made some tests. They tell us it looks like it's viable. We'd love to see that go ahead. That would be somewhere over 100 jobs directly in this town.
I learned that last night about now it's because before the old tech that you would have, this is when the people in Flin Flon, they just teach you everything about the mines, right? So what I learned is that the old tech might not be able to extract anything from the tailings, but now in this day and age in 2025, that's why there's some hope that we can get something more out of there.
Yes, and the facilities would be revamped to be specific to that task.
Yeah. In the next hour, more on the arts and its growth and its importance here in Flin Flon. The mayor just touching on that. Grateful to have you here, and thank you so much for having CBC in your city.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Glad to have you.
Mayor Flin Flon, George Fontaine, live with us here at the Orange Toad. Well, next on the show, we're actually going to take you outside of the Orange Toad to hear the story of how this city was founded. And it may not be Manitoba, the story you're expecting. Well, here we stand at the border of Manitoba and Saskatchewan. I'm, of course, on the Flin Flon side. You're going to hear traffic in the back. I'm just off one of the main highways. And then in front of me, I can see sort of all of the trees that come with the beautiful north. I'm actually on a bit of a grassy hill, and behind me, the sun's just setting. And I'm not alone. I am here to learn a little bit about the truth about the origin of Flin Flon. And for that, I turn to Kelleen Blouin, who is with me. Hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Yes. So what's interesting here is a lot of people that grew up in Manitoba might look up the history of this city, and the first name they probably will see is Tom Creighton, given credit for being one of the founders. But your great-great-grandfather is not maybe as well known. What was his name?
His name was David Collins Namakis, his indigenous name, which means trout. And he was from Cumberland House, Saskatchewan, and he made his way here. Early trapper in the 1900s, early 1900s.
And we're standing here because right behind this hill into sort of that wooded area I was talking about, this would have been sort of part of his trap line back here?
This was his trap line.
Now, as a little girl growing up, you understood that David Collins, your great-great-grandfather, was actually the person that put Flin Flon on the map. So tell me a little bit about that and what he noticed on his trap line.
So when I was a little girl, I would travel with my grandmother, my granny, I called her Granny, and my mom and dad, and we would travel and talk to people about the true history of David Collins finding the ore, the valued mineral. of the Flin Flon mine. I would go along with them in their quest to bring the truth about the original finder.
Because he didn't get credit for many, many years.
No, and I knew the story then because they would repeat it. They would say that he was promised his salt and his flour and his lard, and he was also promised sugar, and eventually he would be promised some of the wealth if anything ever came of it. He was noted in a diary of a woman that was at Beaver City on the Saskatchewan side as coming in and looking for prospectors and saying, "Money rock, money rock." He was a Cree-speaking man, and he was looking for partners.
So he eventually was the one that told Tom Creighton.
He was. He led them. It's documented in the National Geological Survey of Canada.
Let's walk down here, and I want to describe to the radio listeners what you're wearing. So you've got a coat on. It is a little chilly, so that's a good idea. But it's also just beautiful. And it's got a turtle on the back.
I'm Métis.
And so you said you called this something.
My truth coat. And turtle represents the teaching of truth. And anytime I talk about David Collins, that's my goal, is to bring up the truth of history.
We have a destination we're getting to here as we walk through the leaves here and through some of the gravel. So we're walking to, now we're in front of an actual rock. It's a monument, which is down here on this spot. Can you read it?
Sure. David Collins, 1866 to 1931. Near this spot in the winter of 1914 to 1915, local trapper David Collins showed prospector Tom Creighton a rock outcrop containing significant mineralization. Creighton went on to stake the property, and this was the start of the world-famous Flin Flon mine in 1919, dedicated September 2015. And I was part of this dedication.
What did it feel like? I mean, you mentioned that being a young girl, you were really fact-finding to make this happen in a way. I mean, it took a long time for this to happen. So
I'm
what was
almost
this?
60 years old, and I was like 9 years old when it started with my dad and my granny and my mom. Like, I'm meant to be part of it.
Why do you think he didn't get recognized earlier?
He was an Indigenous man. He didn't have the rights that European people have and had. Now with Truth and Reconciliation, it's a time I notice he's being noticed and recognized more and more.
You look a little bit emotional when you're talking about that. Why? Tell me why that is.
I do. Like, it's always it's heart work for me, because it was years and years of my family talking about it, and I would think of him back in that time period just surviving. I heard later that he was like an elder and people respected him and would go and talk to him. And I thought, you know what? He never lost himself through all of that. He was still waiting for his sugar, you know? And when we did this dedication, I gave him sugar. I poured out a cup of sugar, you know, a spiritual, you know, thing. Yeah.
As we were standing here, a car went by and a little cutie patootie stuck his head out the window and said, "Hey to you, your grandchild you shared." What does it mean now for your generations of your family moving forward, that history here in Flin Flon won't be forgotten?
They're still talking about it in the schools. Thomas Creighton is still getting the recognition, but my little grandson is like, "Hey, wait a minute, no, David Collins, my granny's great-great-grandfather is the one. He's the one. This was his trap line, you know?" So, like, to me, I'm really proud of that.
Tinnicky. Thank you.
Kelleen Blouin and her great-great-grandfather David Collins found the rock that would lead to Flin Flon's mine and creation. Now, just a note, we did abbreviate the notation that she read on the plaque for editing purposes. You know the next person I'm about to introduce. CBC has a new reporter dedicated to covering the North. He happens to be based in Flin Flon. Eric Westhaver is a lifelong Flin Flonian. And before working as a reporter-editor for the Flin Flon Reminder, before joining CBC, and he's with us. Hey, Eric.
Hello. How's
Welcome.
it going?
I'm well. How do you two know each other?
Raphael is actually the fellow who trained me when I started doing radio as a teenager. I began working at CFAR when I was 15, and I guess he drew the short straw and had to deal with the teen. And I learned a lot from him, honestly. We still, whenever we get together, we get like a good little social buddy act going. It's like we know how to hit each other.
I say work wife.
I mean, we don't technically work together, but I got you. I understand.
I want to know what the love of Flin Flon is about and the dedication to community. Raph explained it a bit from his perspective earlier, but what about for you, Eric?
Ooh, starting right with the really big questions. For me, I think it's as simple as this. Flin Flon's made me who I am as a person, and has throughout my whole life. I'm not who I am without this place. So whatever I can give it back, and whatever I have given it back over the last several years, it feels just like a fair contribution. It just needs. Nothing good in this world happens without people going the extra mile to make sure it happens, whether it's people volunteering, whether it's any sort of like sports or cultural event or anything like that, or what I've been doing in my last 9 years with the newspaper. If people go the extra mile in a community, they make it better, and that's what I've tried to do.
What makes Flin Flon unique when you think about the stories you've been able to tell and you'll be able to tell going forward on CBC?
Ooh, a lot, genuinely. Like, aside from the name. Because that's the easy thing. Whenever you tell people from the South, like, I'm from Flin Flon, they go, what? Where? Excuse me? They think that you're putting them on. But it's the little things. Like, when I came in, you were mentioning sewer boxes. Trying to explain that to people who aren't from here, it's like, what? Excuse me? You do this? It's like, no, there's a reason for it. And we explain it. I think being from Flin Flon and being from the North generally kind of gives you an outsider's perspective on the rest of the world. And it kind of also imbues you to this weird sort of sense of humor. It's almost like gallows humor. It's a little bit like, it's hard to put a finger on, but they're just little quirks and little things that, we get excited about that may be taken for granted someplace else or may just not show up. It's just the little things that pop up that I really find fun and homey here.
We're lucky to have you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
welcome to the team at CBC, and thank you so much. We can't wait to hear your perspective on Flin Flon as the years go by here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So this is Eric Westhaver from Flin Flon, but CBC Manitoba's new Northern reporter. If you live in the North and you have a story you want him to cover, you can send an email right to him, but you also can send it to us, radio893@cbc.ca. Well, next on the show, we're going to change tone here just a little bit as we continue to celebrate Flin Flon. Part of the reason that a lot of people really have appreciate this community is because they've kind of realized, what it's like not to have it. You have to remember that this summer, these people that live in this city of 5,000 were not able to be here because of the wildfires for 4 weeks. And that means not just disconnection from place, but you're separated in some cases all over the place, right? You evacuate to different spaces. So you miss your geographical city, and then you miss your friends and family and connections. When the wildfires destroyed Jan Mulder's home of 50 years in Denair Beach, we visited yesterday, what a beautiful place it is. She says she was devastated, but somehow she managed to find beauty amidst all the destruction. A few items survived the fire. She's taken those items, she's displaying them in an art show over at the Norva Arts Center here in Flin Flon this week, and she's brought a few of them with her here this morning on the table. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Also with us, if you know anything about Flin Flon, then you know there's a thriving art scene we continue to mention. So it's no surprise that Crystal Kolt is here, because Crystal has her hands on everything arts in Flin Flon. She's director of Flin Flon's Department of Culture and Community Initiatives. Hi, Crystal.
Hi, so happy to be here.
I just have to say on a personal note, you also fed us last night to the community. So, thank you.
It was so much fun.
Really kind to host the CBCers. I want to get into the serious part of it. Jen, how are you doing with the loss you've been through here?
We're doing fine. My husband and I both feel incredibly fortunate. We're lucky to be in the position that we're in. Financially we're okay. Our insurance is good. And we feel grateful for what we have. We know there's so many people in the world who just have nothing. And we just really felt right from the beginning, even though we lost our home, we've been there like 50 years. It was a great run. But there's so many people who have nothing. So we just really didn't feel like we could be whiny about it or too sad. I mean, we're sad, but it was a tough experience.
What have you brought on the table here?
Well, I brought a couple things. Like there was an amazing number of things that's articles that survived in the fire, or from the fire. And this one is a wolf. It was a soapstone wolf that was carved by a local carver, Irvin Head, who's really well known. It's on a base, but that didn't survive the fire. It was wood.
Yep.
But it was green. It was green soapstone.
Really?
And the color, it just was transformed in the fire.
And now it's almost like a dark brown or a gray. Like I would have never guessed it was green.
No, it was green.
Yeah.
And
how
it was sort
about
of symbolic of the fire. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the wolf fire, so that was why I brought that one.
Yeah.
And
what's this
and
one?
this one, this is a cup a friend gave me, and it says on it, "Ignore negativity." And I just thought, it's such a message. And some of the things that we were finding in the rubble were things like that. We found a couple circle of friends. We thought, like our friends. Without our friends, where would we be?
Like a sculpture.
Those sculptures.
This Ignore Negativity mug, I just want to describe for the radio listeners. It's orange. You've left the debris on it. I shouldn't handle it too much because you've left sort of some of the fire char, and it's got cracks, and the whole top is also cracked, but you can still read that. And interesting, the top broke, but the Ignoring Negativity message is all clean there. Yeah. What was the moment like when you're on your space where you live 50 years and you're sifting? Like, what is that like?
Well, it was pretty intense, but at the same time, it was like this sense of wonder. I mean, we'd kind of comb through the rubble, and objects would appear that most of them were broken. They've all been transformed, and that's why we called it Transformed by Fire, is because everything changed.
Tell me about the art show. It's been on since the weekend. What's people's reaction been to it?
So far, pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I think what we wanted to do is kind of touch people's hearts, but also just show. I wanted to show the positivity. I mean, for us, it was a real cathartic experience when we're digging through the rubble and finding things, and it was like, wow, how did that survive? And so when we put the show up, the objects that we chose, there's quite a few more, but the objects that we chose, I thought sort of showed that range of, sort of the devastation, but also, how, like the friendship circles, how we need each other. And then when you came back, things were surviving. Plants were growing. Trees were growing. There were a tomato in my garden that I planted one tomato before we left, and it had a couple of tomatoes on it. And just how did it survive?
There's messages in that.
Yeah, those messages, that survival, that...
I want to turn to Crystal because obviously, we're talking about the art scene and the show that's going to be on. Why? You've been steeped in the scene here in Flin Flon for years. Why do you think that the arts remain so vibrant in this city?
Well, I think it's always been a really integral part of our community, whether it's from, like, I heard you had met with Kelleen Blouin and her family and the people that came with birch bark biting and the beating as well. But the part that really enticed me when we first came was things like the Flin Flon Glee Club, the very people that came from away to be here and started the art community. And so when my husband and Mark and I came up here, we really thought we were leaving it forever, like we were leaving our art community. Little did we know we'd be landing in a place where we would have Neil Young's Grandma Jean accompanying John Vickers, and then everything is possible here. And so I remember Karen Clark and I going to Community Futures Greenstone to talk to Bunny Burke about the possibility of an art center being here. And then you have people like Jan that just, people take things to the next level and they don't give up. It's just, if we want to perform in Carnegie Hall, well, let's just see, how do we perform in Carnegie Hall? If we want to we have Angela Shaka here, the new director of the Flin Flon Community Choir, that if we want to do a large musical, we do.
And all these things are happening, the musicals, the carnival, Carnegie, like they've all happened.
All happened.
Tell me a little bit about this, because I understand art's part of the community is not just DNA, but it has a connection to the mine's hiring practices.
Exactly right. Not urban legend. This is the truth. So that if you imagine in the Depression, after the Depression, you could hire anybody in North America, and they're building a community, and they wanted to build it with the best that they could. So if you were a tenor, you got hired on the spot. If you were a good bass, you got a second job interview.
Yeah.
But it was all the other, all the other pieces of the puzzle. If you were a sports person or a stonemason or whatever, that was what they wanted.
So interesting. We have a minute left, and I buried the lead because you have dreams to make Flin Flon a major national center for the arts. It's been in the works for a while.
Yes.
Your plans are for the North Central Canada Centre of Arts and Environment. Tell us about that dream.
So this whole dream, which has been happening now for about 15 to 17 years, is to really support everything that the North needs to become a sophisticated art community society. So there are 6 pillars of this art center. We've been working on speaking with many ministers everywhere from Ottawa to Manitoba, and it's coming to fruition. We're really excited about the next steps, and we think this will be the perfect thing, whether it's the Prime Minister's goal of we know that culture equals sovereignty, and we need to have it defined. It needs to be sophisticated, and so we think the North is ready, and the country's ready for something as sophisticated as a BAMP Center for North Central Canada.
Well, good luck getting it built here in Flin Flon. You certainly have the attitude here for we're seeing that this morning. Crystal, really thank you for being on the airwaves, and thanks for having us in your city.
Oh, thank you for coming.
Crystal Kolt, Director of Flin Flon's Department of Culture and Community Initiatives. And Jan, good luck with wherever you're going to be rebuilding in your next steps.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. That is Jan Mulder. She has her art show on at the Norva Center here in Flin Flon all week. As you know, one of the hardest hit areas for almost all of the 5,000 residents here were evacuated south for 4 weeks. So this was rather one of the hardest hit. But not everyone left the city. Next, a glimpse behind the curtain of an unprecedented Manitoba emergency. We are in Flin Flon City Hall right now, but actually this was the command center during the fire. And one of the people that was here all the time, while the rest of the people in the city were not, a lot of them were in Winnipeg, was this man. This is Flin Flon's fire chief, Jason Kuras. Thanks for having us in your city.
Not a problem at all. I'm glad you guys came.
I can't even imagine the kind of wildfire you guys faced, and you're the fire chief. Had you ever been through anything like that before in your time?
Not on this scale. This was something I had never anticipated ever being part of or needing to be part of, and to be right there in the middle of it, it's definitely something I hope I never have to deal with again, but it was a good experience. It was a good outcome.
This room, the command center, Jason was explaining to me, the chief was explaining, back on that wall would have been the big map behind us that they had sort of outlining everything, and then they would have gathered around the table. How many people were left in town? Because you were one of only a handful, right?
Yeah, I mean, at any given time, we probably had around 100 firefighters. We had probably at least a dozen staff in here for logistics and making sure everything kept running. So in total, just in Flin Flon, be lucky if we had more than 150 people in total.
When you started setting up in here, I understand there was a point where the city didn't even had power, like there was nothing. So did you run a generator from across the street at the fire hall?
We actually ended up having to procure 2 generators during that time to make sure we had power here and at the fire hall so that we can continue our normal operations. So it lasted for 48 hours with no power before we finally started getting power back, but some areas of the city remained without power for a full 5 days.
And do you have everything that you need in Flin Flon to keep Manitoba's north safe now? Because you must have learned some lessons. You started by saying you learned all kinds of lessons about how wildfires, how they move. And do you have everything you need now? Or what's your hope moving forward to keep your city and this part of our province safe?
I'm hoping that we can start to work a lot more closely. Like the OFC has done a very good job of trying to help out with each municipality with different programs and things like that.
Office Fire Commissioner, Office
Office of the Fire Commissioner. So they're really working hard to try to get some of these programs like the WUI, the Wildland Urban Interface Program going, and we need to start working more closely together. Even though we have large distances between us up here in the north, we need to start working more closely with joint training efforts and just equipment purchases. We need we need support from the government there to get some more equipment up here too.
You probably know that at the federal level, there's a lot of chiefs now that are saying we need coordinated emergency response across this whole country. And we need to not have sort of the deployment coming from, emergency specific, event to event. How do you feel about that? Would a coordinated effort and maybe one main office help in Manitoba when you think about deployment and such?
I think because everything is each incident is so varied and so different, by centralizing it to such a individual area, it's not going to be effective. I know that when you'll see some of the pictures from this, our terrain is completely different than down south. You drive up here and you will see nothing but gorgeous, beautiful lakes, rocks everywhere.
I feel like I'm in Newfoundland, by the way, or Kenora. That's what it looks like.
Kenora, yeah. So, I mean, it's not easy for somebody in, say, farm country to really grasp what, like a grass fire there is different than a bushfire here.
So regional coordination might be valued over federal.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Regional coordination where we can look at different areas, different sectors, and really lock down what we can do and what we can bring to each other will be more effective than centralizing everything.
What was your scariest day?
Every day. Every day, pretty much. The early days there when the wind just kept switching on us and moving around were definitely challenging and definitely some of the more tense moments of the whole thing. So
well, I'm sure you got more than one thank you for keeping the city safe. Thanks for your time today.
Not a problem. Thanks for coming.
Well, James Dauk also spent his summer here in Flin Flon, like Fire Chief Jason Kuras. He spent 2 weeks in the command center. He spent, though, the other 2 in the bush, fighting back the flames. He's been a firefighter here 9 years, father of 2 teens. He's lived outside the city, just outside, for 21 years. I asked him to take me to a spot of significance regarding the fire, and he took me to his house. A 1-story home across from the water with a badminton net in the yard, and I was curious why he didn't take me into the trees. He told me he has survivor's guilt. The fire came within 4 kilometers of his property. Here's what he shared.
I guess the worst days were when I had to watch my kids leave one day and my girlfriend leave a different day after she had evacuated the hospital. So those were tough days for sure. And but there was one night in particular I was out fighting the fires, and the chief came up to me about 8 o'clock at night, and he said to me, he's like, "I don't think your house is going to be there in the morning, James. You might want to get your belongings out of there." So we came back to the hall. He gave me a ride, and I was just going to sneak away and start hauling my items to a safe location. And Chief, being the good guy he is, we had a few members, about 7 members there, who were just dog tired, dirty, been fighting all day for days. And Chief walked up to them, "Who's going to help Dauk move his things?" And they all stood up and they just came and did it. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Where did all your stuff go, and what was it like waiting it out until you heard the outcome?
The decision I made was to bring it to the airport. It's a big open area. Brought some items from close friends of mine too out there. We did the best we could. And I guess you saw the area, or might have saw the area yesterday, but Sally's Beach Road, the fire is extremely close to there, and even hopped into the airport location. So I was wondering if my decision was great at that time, but it all worked out in the end.
You spent some time, you spent weeks and weeks, as you've outlined. Your girlfriend was evacuated, your 2 teen kids were evacuated. You spent some time in the command center, but you also spent some time right in there in the thick of the fire.
Yes.
Can you still smell it? Like, what was it like?
At the start, it was just so overwhelmingly busy that you were just doing it, and ash, smoke, everything, heat, intense heat. It was plus 30 days out there too, so it was pretty intense. And when I finally did get pulled off the truck to go into the command center, it definitely came with a heavy heart as well. For it feels like you're leaving the guys, but every role is important, and I was just here to help with whatever I could. And as proven by the chief's decisions at the start to make the line between Cliff Lake and Trout Lake was monumental for protecting the north side of Flin Flon and east side of Flin Flon, as well as my place here. Yeah.
Save the city.
We all
Most
saved
of the
city.
city.
We all saved the city. Yeah. With the generosity, I might add, of 55 departments from across Manitoba, and like 194 firefighters that helped us. Like, God bless them. Thank you so much.
Anything to add? I wonder how this stays with you as a person. It's not all that long ago that you're back here, your family's back. How are you changed by it?
Well, I think an event like this definitely changes you. It makes you, appreciate what you have a little bit more, even though it's just stuff. The building of relationships, whether it's interdepartmental or, with the people that came to help us, that's very positive. And yeah, it's something that weighs heavy on me yet, but will never be forgotten, but I'm glad I was part of. Very fortunate.
What weighs heavy? What do you mean by that?
Just the way I look at life in general. It's a massive event, and it could have changed at any moment where we lost everything, like as a town, like as a city, and to be part of something where it didn't happen, and to be part of the group that was able to fight this off, I feel very fortunate.
Thanks for your time.
No, thank you.
Thanks for having us in Flin Flon.
Well, people in the city of Flin Flon might say that they're from Manitoba, but there's a chance, as I alluded to, they might actually be from Saskatchewan. The city spans both sides of the provincial border. More than 200 homes are on the Flin Flon, Saskatchewan side, and some folks here say for many years they've been caught up in the crosshairs of jurisdictional confusion. The CBC's Rosanna Hempel joins us live at the Orange Toad this morning to bring us some of their stories. Good morning. Oh, we're just going to pop your mic on there. Sorry. Good morning.
Good morning.
There you are. Corey's running around. He's got a whole bunch of guests coming up after you here. You met with some Flin Floners who live on the Sask side. What do they tell you about living there?
Yeah, I met with Guy Rideout and Mark Titoff this week, and they've lived in that part of town for decades, and they had different names for it. Guy calls it no man's land, and Mark called it in between. You really see that when you're driving down Hudson Street. You might not notice anything different at first on the Saskatchewan side until you look a little closer and see those Saskatchewan license plates. Both Guy and Mark say they feel that Flin Flon is one big community, one city, but every once in a while there's these things that happen where they feel the border. Here's Mark Titoff.
But we have the best of both worlds sometimes, per se, because we go to Saskatchewan, we can go to here on Manitoba side, but it's the little glitches that arise, those little, the postal code thing, the jurisdiction where we are. Sorry, we don't know you because you're not. This address doesn't work, so we're alienated. Would that be the correct word? And it's not. So it's always. It makes it tough on us, and it does. It gets emotional because you get wore out from it.
What does it mean, actually, Rosanna, for them if they live in Flin Flon, but they're from Saskatchewan?
Well, it means that people there have Saskatchewan driver's licenses and health cards, but it also means that they have a Manitoba postal code. Otherwise, the mail can get mixed up. They get cheaper electricity through Manitoba Hydro, and they pay their municipal taxes to the city of Flin Flon, so that makes sure that their roads get plowed, that kind of thing. And this is where the glitches come in. Not everyone out there knows that there is a Flin Flon, Saskatchewan, and it does cause some issues every once in a while. Mark gave me an example where his wife was denied financing for a new car in Saskatoon because their Saskatchewan licenses and Manitoba postal code didn't match.
I would think by now, we're all electronic, we're all supposed to be whatever, but they give you questions. They question us, how you have a health card and a driver's license, but you're Manitoba. No, we're not Manitoba residents, we're Manitoba mailing. And then they ask too many more questions.
It's just so interesting, right? All these little things. What other glitches have there been?
Yeah, I want to mention a couple recent ones. Education property taxes and the evacuation benefit. So for education, we'll remember that the NDP government got rid of that Tory rebate for homeowners, and they replaced that tax $1,500 credit called the Homeowners Affordability Tax Credit. And Flin Floners on the Sask side used to get that old rebate.
So used to. What about now?
So this year they didn't get the new $1,500 credit, and the city argues that Flin Floners on the Sask side should get it because they pay their municipal taxes to Flin Flon and pay their school division taxes in Manitoba. The Manitoba government tells us, though, that this new credit falls under different legislation, the Income Tax Act, which is based on residency. And because folks there pay their income taxes to Saskatchewan, they aren't eligible for the credit. So that issue is still being ironed out.
So much to think about. What about during the big story in this area this summer? What happened to these Flin Floners on the Sask side during the wildfires?
Yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges. That was the evacuation benefit. So when the city issued their mandatory evacuation notice on May 28th, it did apply to everyone in Flin Flon. Guy Rideout said it was hard to get help from either province because at first neither side would take responsibility for them. They'd hear from Saskatchewan something like, "You're from Flin Flon, Manitoba." Then they'd hear from the Canadian Red Cross in Manitoba something like, "You're from Saskatchewan."
I met people in Nepal when we were evacuated that were from this area. Some got it, some didn't. It was a gong show. It was very, very annoying, and it was about a week before we got home I finally got some assistance. But
so in the end, Guy says he did get his evacuee benefits from the Red Cross in Manitoba.
I understand the city of Flin Flon right now is looking for more funding and support from the Saskatchewan government. Why is that?
Yeah, I talked to Mayor George Fontaine about this, and it's because the city says it provides services to people outside Flin Flon, including in Creighton, for example, which is also right on the border. There's also Denair Beach, Saskatchewan, not too far away, and some other places as well. They estimate that overall they serve about 15,000 people outside of Flin Flon, and one example Mayor Fontaine gave was the new Aqua Centre, which will open next year. It cost $18 million, and he says they didn't get additional money from the Saskatchewan government for it.
You're using our services. It's a border community. It's not unlike how the deal that you have on the Lloydminster side. Except on that side, you're providing services to someone else. Here we are, and we need some help with that. So yeah, on that particular point, we do need some conversation, of course, at all levels of government.
The government did give us a statement, and they said that it also allocates federal funding to Flin Flon every year that the city can use for things like infrastructure projects. And they said that an aquatic center would be eligible for that funding. They didn't say how much is transferred annually.
So what about Guy and Mark? I mean, has it ever become so complicated? I mean, as you said, when everything is sort of like the license plate doesn't match the driver's license and you have to wait for your benefits for wildfire and explain where you live. Does it ever get so frustrating in Flin Flon, Saskatchewan that they maybe want to leave and relocate?
I put that question to them, and no, they love it here. And they told me that the hardest part was really in the beginning when they had to learn all of those differences. And besides, Mark says he doesn't want to give in.
I wouldn't move. This is my home. We enjoy it. I've asked my children if we'd move, where would we move? If I'd go to the farm, if I'd buy an acreage, and no, they don't want to. They grew up here. They're friends. They love it. We're outdoors people, and it's a close-knit community.
It's a beautiful view of both Flin Flon, Manitoba and Flin Flon, Saskatchewan, and he told me he just hopes everyone out there recognizes that there's two of them.
I can't let you get off the air without asking what CFL team they cheer for.
Yeah, I put that to them. Guy usually cheers for the Bombers, actually, but this year, given how that's played out, he's cheering for the Riders, and Mark said he's not a football fan.
Well, Guy won't get in trouble for switching allegiances because he does live on that side. Thank you, Rosanna.
You're welcome.
This is an interesting story, right? You forget that Flin Flon's a border town. We often say northern town, but it is both. While the Prime Minister and Premiers talk about lifting interprovincial trade barriers, businesses along provincial boundaries are still navigating red tape. Now, forget about cross-border booze rules differing. Imagine if you have to be mindful of how far you drove your work truck full of gravel to avoid extra cost and paperwork. Robert McKeen is director and owner of McKeen's Trucking. He's part of a bigger story, as I mentioned, in the coming weeks about Flin Flon's border town trade issues. Here's a preview of his conversation with Rosanna.
We are located in Saskatchewan, but we have a Manitoba address. My Saskatchewan driver's license has a Manitoba address on it. So we are located in a no man's land, as I like to call it.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Yesterday someone called it in between.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, yeah.
And so I guess, would you say, like, is it 50-50 both sides of the border? How does that work?
I would say we're probably about 60-40, 60 Saskatchewan, 40 Manitoba, roughly. Because all of our vehicles are licensed in Saskatchewan, it does restrict us in Manitoba because we can only haul a certain distance without permits. So once we get out towards Cranberry Portage or the Paw, we have to pull permits for hauling gravel out that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me more about, what do you have to do? Is it more challenging to go into Manitoba?
Yeah, for us it's more challenging because we don't run IFTA on our trucks, and that's to keep track of the taxes and your fuel economy, your fuel that you use, and separating the taxes between interprovincial travel. So we just do local permits, pull permits for trips into Manitoba, as we're only allowed to go a 30-kilometer radius without a permit.
So you have to, would you say most of the work you need to get permits?
For probably 30%, 20 to 30%, we're pulling permits into Manitoba.
And is that an added cost?
It is an added cost, yeah. Yeah, there is added cost for people that get gravel on the Manitoba side outside the 30-kilometer radius.
Interesting, right? Robert McKeen, director and owner of McKeen's Trucking in Flin Flon, Manitoba and Saskatchewan. By the way, the IFTA is International Fuel Tax Agreement. Also of note here, just last week, the Saskatchewan government introduced the Internal Trade Promotion Act. So the Trade and Export Development Minister there, Warren Kading, says the bills aim to lift, quote, unnecessary approval processes. Manitoba politicians unanimously passed a similar bill in June to remove trade and labor barriers for some goods and services between Manitoba and other jurisdictions that will pass similar laws. Don Peake has sat down with us. He's with Flin Flon's Archives Board. You two know each other, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a historian, keeps and preserves and promotes our fine Flin Flon history.
How important, Raph, just before we turn to Don's work, is understanding that history of the North in this particular community to you, do you think?
It's really, I have a history background from the University of Manitoba, so when, Don puts stuff on his website and when he has his public showcases, it's really interesting because it's industry, it's sports, it's culture, it's politics, and it's a really neat, because it's a relatively new town. We've been around for like 100 years, but how it came from just a hole in the ground into a town is just fascinating.
Yeah, and it was a very, very profitable mine for so many years. Still lots of that happening in the area, but in 2022, the mine right in Flin Flon closed down. How did you fall in love with and telling of a history of this area, Don? Why did you get involved in it?
Well, I was born here.
Yeah.
And I took, in grade 11, of course, took history. And I was sort of interested then, but Jerry Clark, which you've probably heard of, he did a lot of tours around town. And he was our teacher. And it was kind of interesting because in 2018, we both received a Lieutenant Governor's Award for preservation, promotion of history in Winnipeg there. So it was kind of a turnaround there. But yeah, I've been interested. Where I got started in this, going down, if you go into Victoria Inn and you go down the hallway there, you'll see there's those Flin Flon pictures down there.
Yeah, we're staying there. I saw them all.
So I talked to the manager. I says, what's the chances of borrowing those so I can scan them? He says, well, why don't you go to the original and get the originals from the archives in the library basement? And I said, okay. So I went and talked to Phyllis Stadnick, who was the manager at the library at that time. I says, could I get and scan these? And she said, yeah, okay. And the question I asked was, is any of this electronic? And she said no. And this is back in 2009.
So have you, since 2009, made it your mission to get the everything that is tangible, physical rather,
Yep.
in an electronic record?
Yep. The Heritage Project itself is Doug Evans in Winnipeg, Phil Geese, Richard Lyons had started it back then, and then so I moved in. But I started scanning. And right now I'm working on the spreadsheet to try to improve it and do stuff. We're going in process of doing some, hopefully get the website running better. We're having a little issues with it.
What's the coolest thing that you found? I know that's a terrible question after all these years, but what's one of the coolest little things you found? Whether it was a photo or a record of something, or
documents. There's lots of them. Like, I mean, when I'm scanning documents, you get a chance to read them, like the old papers and stuff like that. And I actually did the city minutes. And then even at that, before Flin Flon was incorporated, there was a Community Development Corporation, which was run out of the Greens office in the company and around town, and talking about how the go read in there in the minutes and says, got to move Joe Smith's house 3 inches because he's off the line, the lot line, and that. So stuff like that. It was pretty interesting that way. But I mean, there's so much stuff. I mean, there's 65,000 pictures on the archives data. I'm the gatekeeper for that part of the archives. And like I said, like I've gone through and re-edited the spreadsheet, which all basically is the record of all the archives, photos and stuff on on there. So it's pretty interesting.
This area is lucky to have you
Thank you.
documenting all that. Don, thanks for coming on the air with us here on CFAR and CBC and telling us more about it.
Well, thank you.
That's Don Peake. He was with Flin Flon Archives. He's on the board, and as you heard, he's been documenting here since 2009.